Welcome into the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. I am Chris Daughtry. Our Ohio State Football Report host Tom Downey bet that we could not get 400 likes on today's video. Let's prove him wrong. If you're an Alabama football fan or just Alabama fan in general, go ahead and drop a like on today's video. That should just about be every single person that likes or that watches this video should drop a like on it for me right now. Now, ESPN listed the Tennessee game as a make-or-break game for Alabama's 2025 season, and I don't necessarily disagree that you don't want to lose the Tennessee game, but I really don't think it is a make-or-break game for Alabama or really any other team out there going into next season. Now, Chris Lowe of ESPN was kind of in charge of choosing the team and giving the explanation of why he picked Tennessee. This is what he had to say. He said Alabama faces some key games in the first half of next season, including a trip to Georgia on September 27th. But this so-called must-win game in 2025 is the October 18th matchup against Tennessee, a.k.a. the third Saturday in October. The last thing Kalen DeBoer wants in his second season at Alabama is to lose back-to-back games to the Crimson Tide, or to the rival the Crimson Tide had dominated for much of the past 2 decades. The Vols have won 2 of the past 3 games in this series, but that's after Alabama won 15 in a row under Nick Saban. Tennessee last won back-to-back games in this rivalry, 2003 and 2004. The game also comes at a point in the season when Alabama needs to be playing their best football. It is sandwiched between trips to Missouri on October 11th and South Carolina on October 25th. Following the game against the Gamecocks, Alabama gets a bye before taking on LSU at home. In short, it's difficult to see the Crimson Tide making the playoffs if they lose at home to the Vols. Now, I'll give my thoughts and opinions on this in just a second, but get in the comment section at the pinned comment of today's video and predict Alabama's record in 2025. That ad's going to come here on YouTube. That is totally fine. You guys can take advantage of it. Get down there and predict Alabama's record in 2025. Now, these are some of the notable matchup. I took all the cupcake games out of here. You got Florida State, Wisconsin, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri as well. You got the Tennessee game that Chris Lowe talked about there on October 18th. South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn all on the schedule for Alabama next season. And the way I look at things, I don't think that there is just one make or break game for anybody anymore. Look, Alabama lost the Tennessee game last season, and at the end of the day, that game really did not matter. The game that broke your season last year was the Oklahoma game. The losses to Vanderbilt and Tennessee, they definitely compiled into why Alabama missed the playoffs last year, but they were not the reason why Alabama missed the playoffs last year. You were in prime position to play for an SEC title if you would have just beaten a bad Oklahoma team at the end of the season. Look, this is not to say that, I want Alabama to lose games or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I could care less who Alabama loses to as long as they make the playoffs in the end. Sure, there are games that would absolutely suck to lose. You got the Auburn game, the Tennessee game. Those games are against your biggest rivals. You don't want to lose those games, but it really doesn't matter anymore if you lose those games. You don't want to lose games against bad teams like Oklahoma and Vanderbilt either, but if you just have one bad weekend or 2 bad weekends in the season, it just does not matter anymore the way the college football playoffs, are now. Look, I'm not going to go out there and just act like Ohio State fans who just sulk and allow themselves to get trolled by Michigan fans online after they just won the damn national championship game. The only thing they can think of right now is back losing that Michigan game. They wanted Ryan Day fired before the playoffs. I'm not going to act like that just if you lose 1 or 2 games throughout the season. It doesn't really matter who you lose those games to. 1 or 2 blemishes on your record just does not knock anybody out of the playoffs anymore. Now, ESPN did also have Alabama as some other teams make or break games. They had Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And look, all of these teams can get into the 12-team playoff with a loss to Alabama. So it's not necessarily the Tennessee game that I'm like, oh, it should be a different team. It's really There is no one game anymore that knocks you out of the playoffs. There is no make or break single game anymore in college football. I even will go to the extent of saying I think eventually a 3-loss team will make the college football playoffs as well. If the new expansion gets approved, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get 4 auto bids apiece. A single loss to Alabama is not going to make or break anybody's season, and the same thing goes the other way around as well. We'll continue on some more here in just a second, but want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. You guys can get up to 50% off on Alabama hoodies just by going to chatsports.com/CFB hoodies. They've got hoodies, they've got quarter zips, they've got crew necks, they've got everything. There should also be a little clickable link over there in the corner of the screen that you guys can click on. Just go to chatsports.com/CFB hoodies, and you guys can get up to 50% off on Alabama gear. Now, this is what a potential 14-team playoff would look like if it were approved. SEC and the Big Ten both get 4 auto bids apiece. The ACC and the Big 12 both would get 2 auto bids apiece. I assume those are going to be the 2 teams that play in their conference championship games. You've also got the highest-ranked Group of 5 champion, which, in my opinion, get the Group of 5 out of here. Let them do their own thing. Like, they don't need to be competing for national championships against Ohio States and Alabamas and Clemsons and Georgias. They're just not in the same realm. So I would propose just get them out of here, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. You've also got the highest rank at-large bid. So that means, most likely is going to be Notre Dame. I know there's some other independents out there that could get that as well. But, at the end of the day, it's just probably going to be Notre Dame. And also, in a 14-team playoff, the first round bye would go to the top 2 ranked teams. Now, in a 16-team playoff, the field would just add 2 more at-large bids, and there would also be no first-round byes anymore. So, I hated the first-round byes this year. I also do hate the automatic bids, but it is what it is. That's just kind of the way college football is going right now. And 14, 16, it really doesn't matter. I think there's too many teams in the playoffs anyways. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. Chat Sports is going to be at the NFL Combine this year. And while we're not going to be able to do as many of these types of videos, we're also, every single time an Alabama player gets up on the podium, we will have those interviews for you guys as videos. So do not miss out on that. Make sure you guys hit that sub button for me right now. Now, this is what Paul Feinbaum said about the college football playoff expansion. He said, I personally don't think we really need 2 or 4 more schools in the tournament. I mean, we've already had this conversation that there weren't 12 good teams going into this year. But on the other hand, it's a television event as well. More programs who are talking about is considered good for the sport. There are more games. And, I totally get that, but I just hate the fact that we're just, at the end of the day, giving away participation trophies to be in the college football playoffs. I absolutely hate expansion. I hated the 12-team format. I'm definitely going to hate 14. I'm definitely going to hate 16 as well. There were like 5 teams this year that realistically had a shot to win the national championship game. And in this potential format, you would have 2 3-loss SEC teams in this season. And look, do I think the SEC and the Big Ten have tougher schedules than everybody else? Yes, I do think that. Do I also think that we need to rig the whole thing to make those conferences happy? No, I don't agree with that at all. I think that's going out there and just giving participation awards to teams that probably didn't do enough in the regular season anyways. That's why my personal opinion is I think everybody, for one, needs to be in a conference. No more independence. That's just stupid, in my opinion, to be independent, because it doesn't, there's different reasons why you're going to be independent, and it just helps you at the end of the day, and it hurts other teams who are actually in conferences. But everybody needs to play 9 conference games. I think it's ridiculous that we go out there and we play 8 conference games. I get it, the SEC schedule, whatever. No, I'm just totally done with that. You need to go out there. Need to play 9 conference games, and then you need to have 3 Power 4 kind of tournament type weekends. I say tournament, it's not really a tournament, but you take those 3 weekends where you're playing a Mercer or West Alabama or whoever it is, and you schedule other conferences. I think Alabama does a pretty decent job right now. You have Wisconsin on the schedule. You also have Florida State on the schedule next season, but you fill one of those weekends in with another SEC team, and then you play other out-of-conference teams. I think that would really give an actual data point. That's what the committee loves to use, that term data point, on how these conferences actually stack up together. So you're not going to have these wild arguments, oh, this conference is better or this conference is better. You can actually look at the record and see head-to-head how these teams are performing against these different conferences. There was also a reason why I never made the Alabama should have gotten in over SMU argument last season. They lost 3 games. They did not deserve to be in the college football playoffs. On the flip side of things, college football sports is entertainment. I totally understand that. And the landscape of college football right now is changing. More games just equals more money, which also leads to profit sharing and more structured environment, kind of like the NFL. And we all have problems right now with the way kind of NIL is, and I think those kinds of structures can help out the game. But that also comes with some cons as well. There's probably going to be, a collective bargaining agreement that has to go on. And what happens when that expires? Well, if they can't reach an agreement, then you get strikes, and there's nothing in this world that I want less than a college football players' strike. So I understand why, they want more money. They want more games for these TV deals to be able to pay players and kind of get rid of the collectives. But I think going out there and just continue to expand the playoffs, you're just giving away participation trophies for teams that at the end of the day aren't good enough to win the national championship anyways.